Hi everybody, I am videotaping this lesson for a writing workshop from my office because I'm actually in Edmonton the next 3 days. I'm at a conference. So I'm really sad that I can't be with you, but I'm glad that I can do this video to support your teacher and also the substitute teacher that's in for me. I do miss you guys, but I look forward to reading your writing when I get back. Today's lesson, we're going to start something a little bit different. We're going to actually start by looking at the book Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Now I know Miss Wagar has read this with you. You've looked at it already once, but we are going to look at it again today, and we're going to look at it through a bit of a different lens. One of the things that's really important to notice about the Alexander book is that Alexander really talks about everything that happened to him in the course of a day. And the thing that's really important to know is that it's almost like a timeline of his day, and that's one strategy that writers can use in order to write really well and really deeply. So I'm just going to show you an example of what I mean by a timeline. This is a timeline that you're going to be using on your own to do your own writing, but what I want you to notice as Miss Wagar reads the story to you is that there are a sequence of events that take place that he talks about throughout the story. And it really illustrates nicely how his day is really not going very well. So while Miss Wagar reads that story to you, I want you to be thinking about the sequence of events that are taking place that he's talking about and how he's elaborating on each of those and giving lots of detail about each of those events that takes place. The other thing that I want you to be listening for are triple scoop words. The last time we were together, we talked about boring words and words that had were a little bit juicier, and that's what I want you to be thinking about as you're reading this story. The words that are really, really juicy and triple scoop. So Miss Wagar is going to read that story to you on the back carpet or at the front of the room, wherever you'd like, Miss Wagar. And that's the lens that I want you to look through, the lens of the sequence of events that on that timeline, because that's a good strategy for writers, and also the triple scoop words that you can hear that are good for description. Okay, everybody, what I would like to do is just talk about the timeline of events that took place in the story Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. The reason I want to talk about the timeline is because soon you will also be creating a timeline of a day, maybe a horrible day, maybe a great day, that took place for you. So as you notice, it starts at the beginning of the day when he has a horrible start. He got gum stuck in his hair, and he was very upset in the very first page of that story. Then he has no toys in his cereal box. There's no room for him in the carpool, and my favorite is the triple scoop words that I said I was being smushed. I said I was being scrunched. Those are great triple scoop words to describe. The teacher didn't like his invisible castle. He sang too loud and left out 16 when they were doing their math. Paul said I wasn't his best friend anymore. There's no dessert in his lunch. The dentist found a cavity, fighting with the brothers. The shoes didn't have the right runners. He made a mess in his dad's office. There was lima beans for supper and kissing on TV. He had a hot bath, got soap in his eyes, his marble went down the drain, and he had to wear his railroad train pajamas. That's my favorite line. I hate my railroad train pajamas. And then had a horrible end to the day. So the timeline is a really important part of this story and chronicling all the things that took place for him during that day. So the timeline is a great strategy for writers when they're thinking about things that they can write about. All right, so this is where your story comes into play. This is an example of Mrs. L's bad day. So you'll notice on this sheet you're going to be given, the timeline sheet, there's 10 spots. You don't have to use up all 10, but if you have 10 things that took place in a day that were important for you to write about, you could list them here. But I've only got 6, because I'm just going to write about my bad day in terms of my one morning. And this actually happened to me one day. So it was a pretty brutal day. So the first thing that happened for me is that I slept through my alarm. And I'm just writing a simple sentence about what happened in a sequence. Then the next thing that happened is I had to wake up my grumpy kids. And they did not want to get out of bed. So that was really not great. I'm going to tilt that back a little more so you can actually see my face. The third thing that happened is when I had a shower, I got shampoo in my eyes. And so I got myself ready and I got myself dressed and I went downstairs, we had breakfast, and I went to the fridge and I realized I forgot to make lunches. So we had to scramble like crazy to try and get lunches together for everybody so everyone didn't starve at lunchtime. And then after I got my kids on the bus, on my way to work, I got stuck in traffic. So I had to wait. It was red light after red light after red light. And then when I got to work, I realized I left my laptop at home. And that is something that I use all the time. So this just gives you an idea of a sequence of events that took place in my bad day. Okay? Now, please notice with my list that I am not talking about tragic things. I'm talking about just an annoying bad day where everything just doesn't seem to go right. So we want to try and keep it not in terms of a tragic event or something that's really, really sad, but we want to talk about a day that was just particularly crummy. So I've decided to talk about my morning, and actually by the afternoon it started to get better. So I actually might write about that as well. But this is sort of the timeline of things that took place for me. Now, I would like you to take a minute or two to think about a bad day that you may have had and some of the things that took place. Maybe your day started off really, really great and then a couple of terrible things, boring, horrible things happened in the middle of the day that you didn't like and then your day got better. That's okay to write about. Maybe you've never had a bad day in your whole life. And maybe you just have a spectacular day that you'd really like to write about instead and create a timeline for. So what I want you to do right now is take a couple of minutes. I want you to partner up with your writing buddy that your teacher is going to pick for you. And I want you to talk about a day that you might be able to talk about and write about. And I want you to think about the sequence of events, the timeline of things that happened in one day, not over the course of a number of days, one day. Okay, so go ahead and partner up with your partners to do that for a couple of minutes. Okay, everybody. So now that you've had a chance to talk with your writing buddy and hopefully share in your large group some ideas and some things that took place, the next step is for you to create your timeline. Everyone is going to get a sheet that looks like this, and the intention is for you to create a title at the top of the page. So mine was, I should have written Mrs. L's Terrible, Horrible Morning. That might have been a better title than Mrs. L's Bad Day. I could write about, you could say, Dylan's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. You can use the same title as what the story is. Or you could say Alexis's Best Day Ever. Or you could say any of those titles. So you need to come up with a title that sort of illustrates the story that you're going to tell. Then what you're going to do is you are, just like I did behind me here, you'll notice that I've written just simple sentences. You're not writing the whole story here. You're just listing events that took place over the course of that bad day, that bad morning, that great day, depending on what you're going to be writing about. So what you're going to do for the next probably 10 minutes or so is go back to your desks and start listing events that took place over the course of the day that you're going to write about. Remember, it's over the course of one day, not multiple days. So if you had something bad that happened during the day, but the morning was great, and then something bad happened in the afternoon, and then it got better, that's okay to write about. But it has to be over the course of one day, a series of events over the course of one day. So that's what your job is for the next 10 minutes or so. And then you're going to come back to the carpet, and you are going to do some sharing with your partner about what you decided to put and list your events. Okay, everybody, the next step that we're going to be talking about is the actual writing part. And this is where we're going to start looking at digging deeper, using triple scoop words, and really describing each of those events that took place in the day. Each of you is going to receive a little booklet that looks like this. So it's almost like you're writing a picture book yourself. And you'll notice that as we flip through it, okay, there's space for drawing and also space for writing, okay? So you're actually going to create a picture book about your best day, your worst morning, your terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, depending on what it is that you are creating, okay? Now, right now, there's only space for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, but I will have more that we can add to the back. I just created 6 pages because I figured you probably won't get through all 6 in one day. But remember, this is just a pencil sketch drawing and then writing about the events. So I'm just going to model for you what you should be doing to start your book, okay? So if on my whiteboard here, this was my very first page of my book, I want to go to the very first event that I wrote down on my timeline, because the timeline will help you create your story. And I'm going to draw a picture of my very first timeline event. And that was that I slept through my alarm. So I'm going to do a sketch. This is my bed and my pillow and my bedside table and my alarm. I use my phone as my alarm. And there's me with great big eyes because I can't believe I've slept through my alarm. And my alarm is saying, beep. Okay? And you can see that I am panicked. So here I am panicked in my bed. So I'm going to draw a picture about that. Now, my job is to not just write that one sentence, I slept through my alarm. I want you to think about what happened during that event and write about it here. So I might say something like, my eyes snapped open suddenly. My alarm was beeping loudly. I rolled over and looked at my phone. Oh no, it's 6:55, I screamed. I jumped out of bed like a shot. Okay. Now, hopefully you understand that you want to really describe what's going on in this first event. Don't just write a single sentence down. Now that you have your event listed, go back to your event and say, okay, my first event was I slept through my alarm. I need to talk about that and dig really deep in my writing and add lots of information about what happened during that event. Okay? So that's your job, is you're going to use your timeline that you've written down to help guide you. So event 1 will go on page 1 of your book. Event 2 will go on page 2 of your book. Event 3 will go on page 3 of your book, etc. So you're writing 1 page for each event of the day that you've listed on your timeline. So by the end, you should have, if you have 10 events, you're going to have 10 pages of writing that go along with it. If you have 15 events, you'll have 15 pages of writing. If you have 6 events, you'll have 6 pages of writing. Remember, 1 page per event and digging deep with your writing. Don't just write a single sentence. Draw your picture that goes with the event first, then do your writing. Okay? Start with 1 event drawing. Don't go through and draw all the pictures. Draw 1 picture for the first event, do your writing. Draw pictures for the next event, then do your writing. Okay, so that's going to be your job, and you're really going to have to dig deep. Don't just write 1 sentence. Tell us all about what happened in that event. I look forward to seeing them when I get back.